Welcome to the Lug Nuts Podcast. Hey folks, on this week's episode, Sam and I suggest the perfect holiday gifts for the automotive enthusiast in your life. Then we fall in love with the perfect family vehicle. Finally, we talk about a few vehicles recently announced at the Los Angeles Auto Show and what chickens have to do with new pickup trucks. Enjoy. And we're rolling.
We're rolling. So with the holiday season upon us,
Do you hear those lug nuts jingling, a ring ting tingling too?
You know, I feel that we need to provide our listeners with some car gift advice for fellow auto enthusiasts.
Public service, if you will.
Now, since we don't take anything really seriously, these are not things that whoever you're giving these to better have a good sense of humor. I mean, we're not talking about like buying your spouse like WeatherTech floor mats. Okay. Yeah. Like I get that, those are cool. And like car people would be, psyched about those, but no, we're not talking like good, serious gifts here.
No,
we're talking about some kind of funny, cheesy things that they better have a good sense of humor. So, I got one. This is mine.
All right. What is it?
I thought of this coming down the hill today.
Wait, who are you getting this for?
I think I might put this on Mark's Fiat 500e.
Okay.
Naked Lady mud flaps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are great.
And I think if you go on Amazon, they have a plethora of options.
Really?
Yes.
Like what else do we see there?
There is the Naked Man mud flap.
Ooh.
So it looks kind of like a lumberjack. He's got like a beer belly.
Okay.
I just think like you could get these universal fit ones, and I mean we could sneak out there during lunch and just slap them on that Fiat 500, and I would honestly like to see how long it takes before he even noticed that they're on there.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I'm game. We're doing it. All right.
Okay. So that's mine. Do you have something that you want to...
I do. Yeah. I had a couple ideas, really. One of them was an item that's often ridiculed on auto boards, and that's the stick-on AutoZone vents. I wasn't going to tell you this, but in the interest of full disclosure, I was going to probably put some out on your Porsche during lunch one day.
No.
Is that okay?
That is not okay.
It would look sweet, though.
No.
I'll scotch tape them on so they don't.
Okay,
I'll
do
mess
that.
up your paint.
I'll do that.
All right.
Let's also put those on Mark's Fiat 500.
Okay.
Because his electric car needs
vents
on the hood to cool the engine
Yes.
that is not there.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do the naked man mud flaps.
Naked Man mud flaps.
with the fake vents.
Fake vents.
What else?
I don't know. Like, could you do one Naked Man on one of the other? And the other one was about the mud flaps. I don't want to go backwards in time here, but the other one that was amusing was the Fat Lady mud flap.
Yes.
That was funny to me. It's not as funny.
Let's get two sets then. Let's get two sets and kind of switch them up.
Well, when he takes the first ones off, then we'll be ready with the second set.
Okay.
That's
right.
funny. Okay. Second idea. Is actually technically going to be a re-gifted gift. I received last year from my brother truck nuts. They're big, they're large. They're maybe the biggest ones that company makes.
Wow.
I don't know. I did not end up putting them on my truck due to concerns about the vehicle's safety at my place of work.
Yes, or the fact that they might offend some people.
Yeah,
there.
I'm less worried about that than getting fired.
Okay.
I guess. Anyway, so they never made it onto the truck, but I still have them. They're out in the garage. They're on the counter. I've been struggling to figure out what to do with them.
I think a Fiat 500e would be the perfect home for those lug nuts.
I think those would look great on a Fiat 500e.
Wow.
So truck nuts maybe are going to be gifted around the holidays, I think.
Yeah, I think, okay, so to add so just to recap, we're going to do the fake vents,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do the mud flaps, we're going to do truck nuts. I got one more thing we're going to throw on this Fiat 500. We need to get teddy bear hubcaps.
Ooh.
Yes, I saw these a long time ago on like a Volkswagen Beetle, and I mean, they're awful. They're just awful,
Yeah.
but it would really round out the whole look.
It would tie it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll share with our listeners on a future episode some pictures, on our website of what the car looks like.
The fully
when we're
decorated,
done, and the reaction from our good friend Mark.
Yeah. I think he'll love it.
He has a great sense of humor on these kind of things.
I think he'll like it.
Well, happy holidays, everybody. Get to shopping. These are just our recommendations, but
yeah, get your truck nuts.
Zach, I have a car confession I need to share with you.
I think it's probably the same as mine.
Really?
I think so. I think you say yours first, and then I'll tell you if it's the same as mine.
The other day,
Mm-hmm.
little backstory. The other day, one of our coworkers asked us to go check why her TPMS light was
the tire
tire
pressure
sensor, the worst the worst invention for cars ever, by the way.
Well, yeah.
I hate the things. But anyway, so we're like ho humming. We're like, dang it, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to go get my teriyaki grill on, and but we're like, all right, we'll go drive her car and see what it is. And we get out there, and it's a Toyota Sienna.
It's a minivan.
And we're both like walking up to it like, look at this thing. This is awful,
Yeah.
Then we climbed in.
I think I even said, I don't want to be seen in this vehicle. I
You
believe
did-
those
you
words.
did say that.
Those exact words
You
may
did
have come
say
out
that.
of my mouth.
You're like, let's just get out of here quickly.
Yeah.
But literally, like, I opened the door and it was like magic.
Yeah.
I mean, we sat in those giant captain chairs.
They had armrests.
The armrests, and then we looked back in the back, and those kids sitting in the back, it's like luxury back there.
So, okay, here's the thing that I'd forgotten about a minivan is behind the captain's chairs that are up front, right? There are two more captain's chairs with armrests, okay? And then behind that, there's a bench seat, right? And I think you could probably remove that bench seat pretty easily. And then I was like looking between those two captain's chairs behind me, and I was like, think about all the crap you could fit in there. Like you could go like get lumber, or something like that, and just like fit it right in there with ease.
I mean, the thing is, like, I only had one kid in part to not have to ever go down this road.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you have one kid, you can still drive like a cool car because like, you don't need the third row because you're not going to be carpooling too many kids. But like,
she had 3 car seats back there.
Yeah, she only has 2 kids. I don't know what that other car. It's just because I guess she's in the pool.
She makes her husband sit back there probably.
Probably when he's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I would sit back there. It looks comfortable.
Looked good.
And we drove this thing. Went and got some food. It drives nice.
Has all-wheel drive too, doesn't it?
All-wheel drive. You can see around. The sight lines were great.
So that's a thing. Yeah. Like the waist of the vehicle is high enough, or you're sitting high enough, I guess. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. You can see really well all the way around the vehicle.
But it makes so much more sense.
It makes more sense than a crossover to me for most people.
Yeah.
Like, I still think, there's a stigma attached to it. Obviously, there's a stigma. I was like shit-talking it as I was walking out to the thing.
Yeah.
But we got in it and we were like, oh, I get it.
So that's my confession. But let's move into, I'm going to go deeper into this.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
So the weird thing, though, like, I'm not going to go buy one, but I was surprised. I was like, okay, if I had 2 kids, this would be the vehicle.
Yeah.
I'd be rocking it. But therein lies the issue.
Okay.
Let's talk about situations where certain cars are not appropriate. That car is not appropriate for someone who, like a single male, late 30s, cruising in the minivan, and people are like, oh, you have kids? Nope, I just have this van.
Nope, just got a van. Got a minivan.
That just says creeper.
So I happen to have a friend who now, he's not 38 anymore, but years ago he was 38. He's a little older than I am. And he was not married. He had no children. And he drove a minivan. And we all made fun of him for it. Like now today, after the other day's experience, I'm starting to think like, well, maybe I was in the wrong there. But his name was Jim. His name still is Jim. He didn't change his name.
Oh, that's good.
He's still Jim. And I think we're going to try to possibly see if we can get Jim on the show. I don't know if it'll be a success or not. We're going to hopefully get Jim on the show and talk about if he ever got any weird looks, if outside of, his friends like me making fun of him, if he ever got shit from anybody else. I want to know what his life was like and the decisions that went in to a 38-year-old man with no wife and no children owning a minivan. Now, I also, here's the thing, maybe my thinking about this is way uptight. Maybe like that enabled him, maybe because he got married, a few years after, and so maybe his at the time girlfriend, maybe she looked at him driving a minivan and she was like, there's a provider, there's a nurturer. There's a
this
man.
This guy's ready.
This guy is ready, and he doesn't care about his self-image. He's not caught up in his ego.
He's above that. He's above that.
Totally above that. Not caught up in his ego. So maybe my thinking about this is all wrong. Maybe the minivan, enabled him to get wifed up.
Wow, I never thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, you immediately think like guy in a van, he must be giving free candy to kids. He's doing some rapey things in the back, whatever.
Yeah.
But like I say, my thinking perhaps has been very uptight about this.
We need to call him. So, the minivan, we always had the stereotype that it was, for a family of four or bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of fits that stereotype. But, we may be swayed. We may think, not so much. I mean, look at trucks.
Yeah.
Trucks, 20 years ago, if you owned a truck, it was because you needed a truck.
Well, yeah, maybe more than 20. But...
Yeah, probably more than 20. But like now, the best-selling vehicle in the United States is the Ford F-150.
Best-selling, yeah. It's consistently the best-selling vehicle.
And you can't tell me that all of those people driving that truck are actually using it to what its abilities are.
I have a friend who specifically said, well, it's just actually a great family vehicle. And I was like, really? Then like, why not? I don't know. I don't think he uses it as a truck necessarily very often.
Yeah, but it's nice to have if you need it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
So, trucks and crossovers. We talk about this a lot, and I think this is a good time for us to segue into some of the highlights from the LA Auto Show having to do with trucks.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
The Jeep, finally they announced that the Jeep pickup is going to be called the Gladiator.
Yeah, that's gotten a lot of press attention recently.
It has,
for sure.
And I think that thing is gonna sell like crazy.
Yeah, it seems the comments I've read, people seem kind of polarized on the looks. Honestly. I can't decide if I love it or hate it because it's a Jeep from the front and the rest, it's like they glued a truck bed onto the back a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's a full, I think 3 feet longer than the Wrangler Unlimited. I'm not totally sure on the specs of like towing capacity, but I think you're right in that like it's going to sell a lot. They're going to sell a lot of those.
I mean, you think of somebody who wants like the Jeep kind of look and the attitude of it, but then like, and then there's a pickup bed so you can put your motorcycles back there.
Yeah. And it was pointed out, maybe it was Car and Driver, I can't remember where I necessarily read it, but it was pointed out that something like the Raptor F-150, right, was a truck and then they made it an off-road thing as an afterthought almost.
Yeah.
Whereas they are starting with a Jeep flat platform here, which is built from the ground up as a very off-road capable vehicle.
Yeah.
And then putting a truck over onto the back of it, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so, obviously it's a little bit longer. The wheelbase is longer. The breakover angle is going to suffer, but I'm sure it will still be very capable off-road. I'm sure. It would have to be.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be a Jeep. Well, you had shared with me another vehicle that sort of tickled your fancy here, at the auto show that was a truck, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so apparently this was one that was announced as a concept vehicle, maybe at an earlier auto show, by Hyundai of all companies, and it was the Hyundai Santa Cruz, not to be confused with the Santa Fe, the Hyundai Santa Cruz.
Okay.
So you can, if you kind of Google, we'll try to get something up on the blog, although I always say that and then I always forget to post it with the show. The concept of it looks like a kind of a stylized, almost like kind of a stylized Honda Ridgeline with 2 doors, right? And a short bed. So think much more like
El Camino?
Yeah, kind of like El Camino or like, Australian Ute almost is what it looks like. Anyway, the point of this is previously it had been announced as a concept vehicle, and Hyundai actually came out at the LA Auto Show recently and said, we're tooling up a factory, we're going to make this thing.
Where do they plan on building it?
They are going to build it in Montgomery, Alabama.
Huh.
Okay, so why Montgomery, Alabama? Why is your Ford? No, you don't drive a Ford. Just kidding. Why is your Toyota Tacoma? Why is that made in San Antonio, Texas? The chicken tax. So let's rewind to the early 60s. Okay. President Johnson is in office. Vietnam is raging. There's some popular song that we, even if we could figure out what was popular at the time, we wouldn't be able to afford the rights to play it right now. Okay. So just imagine it in your head.
Oh, good.
Because we can't afford licensing for music it's that expensive. Something by the Beatles, I bet.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Popular band back then.
Popular band, definitely. Anyway, so at the time, Europe is still kind of recovering from World War II. And in Europe at the time, they did not eat a lot of chicken, believe it or not. And at the time, the U.S. was figuring out that they were really good at agriculture and basically, I don't want to say mechanized, but mass producing things agriculturally. And one of the things we got good at doing was chickens. So we had exported a bunch of chickens in the early 60s to specifically France, West Germany, the Netherlands, maybe a couple other places, right? And people got their panties in a bunch over there because they said, well, it's inhibiting our ability to have an independent agricultural sector. It's inhibiting our, this is maybe more details than we want to know.
It was probably undercutting.
It was undercutting
their local industry
their production. They accused, the United States of dumping the food on the market below cost to try to upset their market, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, it ended with West Germany, France, and I believe the Netherlands all imposing a tariff on U.S. chicken exports. Our exports, their imports of chicken, right? So fast forward a little bit, and the political machine in the United States gets kind of upset about this, and they start to talk about taxing some of their things in retaliation. This falls under something called the GATT Treaty, which is the Grand something tariff. I don't know. I have to look it up. Not important. Anyway, so we basically decide we're going to do a retaliatory tariff. Still under Johnson. We decide to put a tax on, I think it was dextrose, brandy, and light trucks. Maybe a couple other things. Potato starch, just some weird random stuff, right? And so what they did, this even had gotten to the point where people were so upset that a senator who was Fulbright, the senator from Arkansas, is what I'd read a minute ago, if I'm recalling that correctly. Fulbright even interrupted a NATO nuclear disarmament discussion to talk about the chicken tax. He was so pissed off. He's from Arkansas, big chicken producing state, right?
Yes.
Fast forward a little farther, we start this tax of a 25% tariff on any trucks that are imported into the United States. Now, it was specifically aimed at the Europeans, right?
But were they bringing many trucks into the U.S. at that time?
So one of the more popular ones at the time was a Volkswagen light van. I think it was the Volkswagen Type 2.
Okay. I'll look that up while you,
Okay. So that started this kind of trade war. Eventually, the other things, the brandy, the dextrose, the maltodextrin, the potato starch, whatever those other things were, those fell by the wayside. This 25% import tax on light trucks has stayed, and it has stayed since 1964. So we're 54 years on from that, and that is still in place. And it's part of the reason that the big three automakers in the United States have thrived domestically with trucks, and any of the other foreign manufacturers have kind of failed to import trucks. Now, it's had some interesting ramifications here.
Yeah.
As companies are wont to do, they tried to find loopholes in this law. So do you remember the Subaru Brat? Do you remember that car?
Oh, I love the Subaru Brat.
I thought it was so cool when I was a kid because I would see people on the highway. I was like, they're outside, but they're in the car.
It looked incredibly dangerous.
Right. So the Subaru Brat had kind of a mini truck bed in the back, right?
Oh, yeah, with the back-facing seats.
With the back-facing seats. But guess what? Those back-facing seats are what allowed them to get past the chicken tax, because it was no longer classified as a light truck. They were like, look, we got carpet and we got seats and seatbelts back there. It's totally not a truck, right? There was another, Datsun, I believe, had also imported basically a chassis with no truck bed. And they were like, it's totally not a truck. Look, there's no truck bed. So eventually both those loopholes were closed. Interestingly, Ford still gets around this loophole. Ford, a company that was chicken tax that was designed to protect, gets around it with their Ford Transit van. Okay,
This is present day.
this is still this comes all the way up to present day. Ford has a factory in Turkey where they manufacture those Connect vans. Those kind of delivery.
Yeah, there's the smaller, like,
Yeah, it's like a delivery business kind of van thing, right?
Yeah.
So when those arrive in a port in Baltimore, Maryland, on a boat from Turkey, they come as passenger vehicles. They are imported and taxed as passenger vehicles. They have windows, they have seats, they have seat belts. And what they do is then have a factory, a separate factory or facility, whatever, in Baltimore. They drive those things off there. They rip out the seats and destroy them. They cut up the seat belts. They take off the windows, and then they put panels that are solid steel panels on the back. As rear windows, they take those off, and they make it into a truck. They make it into a delivery vehicle with some domestic parts.
Wow. So they've just figured out how to play the system.
They have totally planned the system. Mercedes did this with another one of their vans, Mercedes / Chrysler, maybe, when they were still partnered together. They would it would roll off the line over there in Europe, but in pieces. Like, it was basically fully assembled, but not totally fully technically assembled.
Wow.
Ship it over to the United States and have some dudes put in the last 3 bolts or whatever, and they're like, look, it's totally made in the United States.
Wow. Okay. You hear that, Trump? They're not building that transit van on U.S. soil.
Not doing it.
You better tweet about that.
Anyway, so that cuts back to why your Toyota Tacoma is made in San Antonio. The Tundra is made somewhere, I think South Carolina. Indiana. Okay.
Yeah.
So this new Hyundai Santa Cruz. So I want to say Santa Fe, but it's Santa Cruz.
It's Santa Cruz.
Going to be built in Montgomery, Alabama. So that's basically how the Japanese, basically anybody who wants to manufacture a truck and sell it in the United States has to build a factory here.
Interesting. Well, that's so. The other thing that I find interesting is that, Volkswagen, some of the executives from Germany were in a meeting in the White House recently, and, they came out, and the CEO of Volkswagen was, hey, we're excited about this. We had some great conversation, and we're possibly doing a joint venture with Ford.
Mm-hmm.
My theory, and you heard it here first, based off of multiple articles, my theory is that the Volkswagen truck that is coming out, which was originally pitched as like a concept to see if people liked it.
And was this announced at the auto show too recently?
No, this wasn't at the auto show.
Separate. Okay, separate deal. I didn't know.
But my theory is that they're going to build that with Ford, possibly a joint venture, like maybe it's built off of the chassis of the Ranger.
Yeah, maybe share some parts or something.
Yeah, possibly. Or it's going to be built in like a Ford factory because they'd be able to then not have to pay that chicken tax because they'd be building out on American soil.
That's interesting.
So you heard it here. I think Volkswagen, I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see another Volkswagen truck. Why wouldn't they get in on this market that is exploding?
Totally. Thanks for listening, y'all. You can find us on the usual social media places. We are at Lugnuts Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also like our page on Facebook or check out our very much still under construction website at lugnutspodcast.com. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.